Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Well, I can, so hopefully everyone can.
Good, that's what I like to hear. So yes, as I mentioned, you have Alan, myself, and Nick on the call. We cover different territories, but we all work together collaboratively at C4P. So today we're talking about cloud migration, simplified, your shortcut to a cloud-first practice. So we have a new program called Migration Factory. And what I'd also urge you to do is obviously today we're going to go through a lot of the details, but if you want to explore further, head to our website. We have a brand new website with all of the information, all of this that we're covering as well. And it just gives a little bit more detail in terms of what this new program is. It's a new bundled price per model. And at the end of the day, we want to work with you and see how we can work together. So just to start off and make this as collaborative as possible, I am going to ask a question. How many of your B1 customers are still on premise? And I'd love it if you would post this in the chat. If you could give us an answer of A, most of them, or B, half of them, or C, just a few of them. It would just be interesting to know how across the world, different regions are, seeing cloud versus on-premise, because we see it in our day-to-day jobs and we see what different partners are doing. But it would be good to hear from you guys as well, to just give us a bit of an indication.
And it is quite unusual, isn't it, Chelsea, in the fact that Nick, myself, and you have the pleasure of going to visit partners all around the world. It is different regionally, and it's still prevalent, I feel, that most partners are still mostly on premise, and they are definitely missing a trick when it comes to recurring revenue.
Absolutely. And I think, Alan, to your point, when we were doing the Boyum event last week, when we did this in person and people were raising their hands, most of them still on-prem was the most popular answer. And probably B being, not really answered to. So between A and C, I think it's an interesting thing from a regional perspective, or also just the customer's sensibility of what they feel about the cloud. So do we have any answers in the chat? I'm sorry, I actually can't see.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. A lot of B's and a lot of A's.
A lot of B's and a lot of A's.
Yeah.
Okay,
great.
So there's potentially a lot of recurring revenue still on the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
So I think that leads into this conversation, which is really interesting. So this is a statistic from Gartner. So as you can see, the market has shifted immediately. It's not necessarily what we see in the B1 space, but at the end of the day, cloud ERP is now the deployment majority. So this statistic is taken from 2020, and hyperscaler ERP adoption has increased by 83%, whereas on-prem and other cloud hosting has decreased by 42%. So it's just the interesting thing about how security and hyperscaler knowledge and having secure platforms, again, this is regionally, we're going to go into a bit more detail, but at Cloud for Partners, we now have 9 data centers around the world. So that is where we are seeing the hyperscaler growth as well. So data residency, data sovereignty is becoming more of a conversation that customers are aware of. And I think that's something that's interesting here, is that customers are more savvy in their research. They're not necessarily relying on their partners. And Nick, Alan, I think you've experienced the same as me, in the sense that customers are coming asking for choices and looking for different cloud options.
And that is quite an important point, in the fact that quite a lot of the partners we work with now have already had, or still already have, access to a private data center. But where they miss out is that some customers don't want a private data center, or don't want to put all their eggs in one basket and have support and buy licenses from an SAP partner and the hosting directly from them as well. So what we provide is an alternative. We can take over the hosting. We can actually provide a hyperscaler like AWS as another alternative for them. And so people are able to be given a choice. And I know full well, having sold Business One numerous times myself in the past, it's really a case of more choice as an alternative close is still a good close. So would you prefer this or that? That is still one of the best closing techniques out there.
Absolutely. Over to you, Alan.
Yeah, so I'm not going to read everything on the screen, guys. So it's well, one of the things we have worked out in discussions with partners when we visit them, if you've got a fair number of people who are on premise and they sit in what you think as they're happy, they're not complaining, they're not coming to support for anything, that to me is actually not a good thing, because that's a potential risk. Because quite frankly, cloud first rivals are already speaking to probably all of, if not most of our customers. So just because they're not phoning up support, and just because they're happily using SAP Business One in your own mind, and the account manager's not really concentrating on them, this is pretty typical, not really concentrating on them because they're not spending or desiring to spend any money, doesn't mean an Odoo, doesn't mean the Dynamics, doesn't mean a NetSuite or something else out there is approaching that customer at sea level and actually flashing the new shiny thing. And that's one of the things that we've also discovered when we're speaking to partners, is that not everybody is on the latest versions of SAP Business One. So they don't get to see the web client. They don't get to use the web client. With 2605 that's come out now, it's really quite impressive. And you can actually do a demonstration of Business One in the web client in its entirety now. And all right, there's some bits missing, but not many. But you don't tend to show things like HR in a normal sales demonstration, those sorts of things. And with 2608 coming in the near future with AI capability now from SAP, there's never been a time, a more important time, to make sure people are modernized. And that was really the message of my keynote last week in the Boyum presentation in Lisbon. Modernization isn't an option. It is an essential thing we do, or we risk people being attracted by our competitors. So if we're thinking they're not talking to our customers, we're probably wrong. And really, from the aging installed base, it's also the biggest available recurring revenue stream that you probably aren't tapping. So if you suddenly go to all of your existing on-premise customers and start targeting the ones who are open to move to the cloud, you'll find that they go, yeah, that's a good idea. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We're getting the new system. With Cloud for Partners, as you all know, we will upgrade you to the latest version for free as you migrate across, and ongoing every year. But the whole point is they're going to get a benefit. They're going to get access to the new investments that SAP and others and Boyum and others out there have been making, and you are making them a bit stickier, because they're now giving you monthly or quarterly annual recurring revenue, but it's recurring. So they're in a contract, they're stickier. They're not going to be as easily persuaded to move to one of the competitors I mentioned before. And that's the point of this slide. And this is a guarantee as well. So from our point of view as Ascari in the UK, some of you abroad might not know Ascari as well, but Ascari is our main company, and Cloud for Partners is part of Ascari. Cloud for Partners became available because we designed from the ground up at Ascari for our customers to be in the cloud. So it's very much a case of we will always guarantee at least one upgrade a year to all of our own personal customers at Ascari in the UK and Ireland. But that's exactly the same for you guys with your customers on our platform. And it doesn't need to be one. We can do multiples. So we give you a pot of days every year, but you don't always need 30 days in one go to do the upgrade. You might actually want to split that into two and do 2 upgrades per customer per year. It's really a case of the choice is yours, but it's about managing and ensuring customers are aware that these updates are essential. Because what I do tend to find is quite a lot of partners don't seem to get customers on side. They go, oh no, we don't want to change. We're happy with where we are. It's working. Well, that's great, but it's leaving that door open for the competitor to come in. And it's not bringing you that recurring revenue, which we all want in our businesses. So having those upgrades and that upgrade path is something that we should really, as a mantra, as an account management team, be going out to talk to customers from now forever. It's sort of, you're on a version that's actually 2 years old. You really should be upgrading. Have you seen what's in the new version? It's brilliant. Those sort of messages you can have. And this is one of our commitments to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good segue into what it's this question, and it's to partners on this call, is what stopped you migrating customers to the cloud so far? And I think all four of these answers are applicable, right, in different shapes and forms. But this is our commitment, as Alan said, in a lot of ways, and the way that Cloud for Partners works is the idea of minimizing these problems to make it a faster and more seamless migration. I would say in the regions that I'm working in, I think pricing predictability is a big part where partners need support in terms of understanding how to price cloud, that it's easy. And then customer reluctance because of the unknown, because everything's worked in the past. Why would we change it? It doesn't seem like something that's necessary. But at the same time, scoping and quoting time, delivery risk, all that encompasses in the same respect. Nick, in America, would you say it's any different?
Yeah, well, North America is the largest ERP cloud market in the world, but they certainly still have the same challenges. There's a whole plethora of versions out there in the field. It's a real mix. It's also others that are hosted. You can often find that it's a real mix of hosting providers as well. You multiple customers, and they have multiple different agreements, and some are with the partner, and some are direct. And there's the overhead of managing all those and the different ways that they're administrated, even if they're already in the cloud. Different setups, different configurations. It brings different challenges as well. So yeah, for sure, it's very similar. It's very similar across the piece.
And as part of what we're presenting and talking about today is that first one is also really valid, because if we don't make what we do easy for you as partners to consume, and more importantly, quite often we're talking to C-level or senior management in a partner, they get it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their sales teams get it. So what we are all about is actually sales training, about getting the message across, but trying to simplify what that message is so anybody can get it and make it part of their presentations and become part of their skill set so they can pass that message on. Because that's the one and probably the most frustrating thing I find about for Cloud for Partners is that when I was in the direct sales side of things, you controlled your own destiny. You had your own sales process. You knew what you were doing. When you're relying on other people to do it, it's all about just education and making sure that we can give everything we can to support you as partners to win the business, whether it's an existing customer or whether it's a new business bid.
Absolutely. So now the Cloud for Partners Migration Factory. This is our new program. And as Alan said, the whole goal of this is to standardize and make it as simple as possible and try and make your lives as partners not difficult in terms of scoping, component level, different bespoke kind of quotes. We're trying to make it as simple as possible that your customer's SAP Business One can run functionally, do what it needs to do, and you don't have to worry about it. And because of our expertise in the cloud for over 15 years, we want to take that headache away from you and that managed service. So we're going to go into that. So this is the 4 steps that come with a migration factory. We've tried to simplify it as much as possible with internal processes that are proven and trusted. But as you can see, it's 4 steps of aggregating your customer accounts, looking at your install base. We will map every customer to the right tier. You will then select the environment depending on what works for the customer and what we advise. And then from there, you have a simple per user price that is standardized, doesn't change. It's not based on component level, which previously a lot of like cloud hosting and I think other vendors do based on the size of the customer. And then we deliver and you advise to the customer. So it's just a simple way to encompass everything. And again, when we say select environment, to some of the people that have joined a bit late, we'll go through the different products in a second in terms of how that works. But your data center, if you're in different regions, I know we've got people joining all across EMEA today, but we have 9 different data centers. So if there's data residency and sovereignty that's important to your customer, that can be encompassed. It's not that you have to be put into a different data center just because the product's available there. We're trying to just remove all restrictions so that it's simplified.
And it's also worth pointing out here, Chelsea, is that everyone who works with Cloud for Partners is protected. So one of the bits of secret sauce that we have is that we are an SAP Premier Partner ourselves, as well as an AWS Advanced Tier Status Partner. So we bring a lot of expertise in this market, and we talk the same language as partners together, but we're never competitive with you. And that includes partners in the UK. And I know there's people on the call who've actually said that too, as they were initially concerned about it, but we never are in competition. But even so, abroad, we do not sell SAP Business One in other regions. So, but even in the UK, if there's anyone on here today who is slightly concerned, but Ascari are another partner in the UK, it's just not an issue. We're more than happy to sign an NDA if you want to have that in place before we start talking around your customers, but we're never going to contact them without your permission anyway. So it's just a case of a relationship built on trust, and it's a guarantee, an absolute guarantee that if you work with Cloud for Partners, you're entirely protected. We're never going to be competitive.
Absolutely. So let's go into the bundle. We're going to spend a bit of time here talking through all of this because this is something that is new. And what we are also just trying to get across here is we've moved away from billing line items. You get this base environment, but you need to pay this for MFA and you need this for a build or an additional app server. We're trying to make it as functional as possible from the starting blocks so that everything is wrapped up and secure and reliable through AWS, and you as a partner can guarantee that to your customer. So the bundled per pricing per user is what we will go through. It's on the next slide. You'll see the different tiers that we've got. But we have AWS infrastructure designed for SAP, which is all certified. This is part of our new architecture that we've done. AWS has looked after us significantly in terms of making this great environment that is perfectly functional and really well performing, always optimized for SAP. Free SAP upgrades allowance. Alan mentioned earlier that we have the ability that if you have a customer on an older version, no matter how many hops need to come along, Cloud for Partners will do that to get them onto the latest version for the web client. 24/7 monitoring and support. That is a ticketed system where we have people on calls. So all around the world, you raise a ticket, no matter what time of day, you are able to contact someone at C4P. Bring your own Office 365 licenses. Nick, Alan, I think we should speak about this a little bit more about SPLAs. This is with AWS Workspaces.
Well, it has been, shall we say, a slight pain over the past couple of years in the fact that Microsoft decided to introduce another tax a little while ago called a SPLA. Some of you who have already worked with us for a length of time will already understand this, but essentially to actually host SAP Business One on AWS or another hyperscaler, Microsoft decided that even though people are subscribed to an online Office 365 license, for them to use that on somebody else's cloud other than Azure, they're going to just charge this SPLA tax. And it's been a bit of a pain, especially if you are using Excel or Outlook and things in anger across a large customer base. It gets quite expensive. The great thing is that we are now no longer using RDS or TS Plus within this new architecture 4. And so without getting too technical, what that means is that we are now able to use AWS Workspaces, and that is a more efficient way of logging into the system. But best of all, is it AWS and Microsoft have an agreement where there's absolutely zero SPLA requirement whatsoever. So all of your users can bring their Office 365 licenses to our platform, no additional charge. And I can't tell you how happy that makes me. I'm really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the friction that comes with all of that, right?
Yeah, it's been a pain, but it's gone. So with this new architecture, you can confidently go out and your sales teams can go, yeah, bring your 365 license to the platform. Bang, go.
Absolutely. And then free builds, we don't charge for that. SAP expert support, because we have our direct side of the business, it's a team that knows SAP. We always look to be an extension of your team so that we can be second line support, but also if you've got questions, you can come to us. And also MFA and single sign-on through Okta, which is part of the SAP certified providers. So that is all encompassed. So you don't have to have any questions around how that works. But we're seeing more and more questions about security, logons, and how everyone is functioning in the cloud. So this is a way of answering that. Moving to
Just a
pricing. Oh,
sorry,
sorry, Nick.
just a little. It's okay. It was just a little point on the multi-factor authentication and the Okta side, which I've certainly had a few conversations about this recently and over time. But one of the great things about that, which is really worth pointing out now, is that it allows your customers to sign in with their own email addresses, so they can carry on using their own corporate ID provider. So I think that probably the one that we all know and love the most there is like sign in with Microsoft. There's others too, but that's probably the one that we're all most familiar with. So that's a really nice feature that IT departments and IT managers really like, because it keeps everything in-house, consistent. It's easier for users. It's a really nice little thing that's worth mentioning. Sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
No.
it's actually one thing I thought that we haven't put on there, talked about, is the fact that you can actually now reset your own passwords as well, which
Yep.
is a huge plus, because I still think, and up until this release, the majority of support questions we got were, I've forgotten my password, can you help me please? We all know this.
100%. Just to remove some of those difficulties. Now moving to pricing. So a bit more about the products. As you can see on the screen, so on the left where you see C4P standard, that is our multi-tenant standard for the partners that already work with us. This is the Ascari platform, where the Ascari customers also live in the same environment. And this is a very good entry point in terms of customers that don't want to spend too much, want to experiment with the cloud, make that first move. As some of you might know, that doesn't include white labeling, because you are on the Ascari platform and your customer will upgrade with the Ascari customers. So you are in a predictive model of when those upgrades happen. But we as Cloud for Partners will always take you along that journey and make sure that there's advance notice so that you can notify your customers. It's a very collaborative place, and we have a lot of customers and partners that use this product and this platform. But where it gets a bit more interesting, I think, is where we move to the C4P Advanced and Multi-Tenant Pro. So the C4P Advanced is your dedicated environment. This is, as we always say, a little bit more of the complex landscapes where your customers sit. And this is where you have a bit more freedom to add different SAP add-ons. We can go into a bit more detail if we have one-to-one calls with you about this. But the MT Pro is a multi-tenant professional that is you as a partner, your own platform. You own that and you have access to the Cloud Control Center. So your team can be as enabled as you want. If you want us to manage it, that's absolutely fine. We do that with a lot of partners. But you can see how we are trying to just reduce the complexity around pricing. So you can see the user count starts at a 20 user minimum. And then as you go up the tiers, as you reach 100, you reach your best price, which is 18 euros per user. So what we've done is bundle a environment that we know will fully function SAP and your customer will be able to use it in a very functional manner. And if they are complicated, then what we do is we just tack them on if you need an additional application server or if there's certain things that need to happen across that. But this gives you a really good base in terms of going out. If we've got salespeople on the call, you can have this as your flat fee to have that conversation with your customer.
And it's worth noting, and I pointed this out last week in Lisbon too, if you find an opportunity that stresses they want to be on a dedicated and advanced environment and they're less than 20 users, you can still talk to us. It's not in our standard calculator, but that's where we build something specific for that requirement. So don't think you can't have a 5-user system that they insist has to be dedicated. You can. It's just unusual. So from the general pricing model that we can release that's suitable, it starts at 20 users, but you can still talk to us. And we can still provide solutions for those smaller user counts. They plainly will be more per user per month than £40 or €40 in this case. But if the customer wants that and they're prepared to pay for it, we can make it.
Absolutely. And here are some examples. These are quite random in terms of how they've set up. We're just trying to give you a good broad range of what prices look like here. So as you can see on the left, we've got the standards. So it's 12 users at €25. There's an application server, which we are adding on. So that is the additional fee with the virtual private cloud, which was also auto added. Advanced is your dedicated, where the customer sits alone in its own environment, single tenant. And then multi-tenant pro is the multi-tenant environment, multiple customers. So that 60 users could be made up of 3 to 6 different companies, doesn't really matter, but they are all in their private environment. And you will be able to have your own white labeling. They don't need to see Cloud for Partners. We just sit behind it and it's on the AWS platform.
It's also worth stressing here that both Standard and MT Pro run on Cloud Control Center. Advanced is dedicated, as you mentioned. So and also that app server and the VPC on the Standard that you can see on screen is an option. If you've got a very simple, very, very easy to run SAP solution for anything from 1 to any number of users, infinity, that will work on MT as standard quite comfortably. When you want to add something that requires its own application server is where we can choose what level of application server, and that then sits in its own VPC, which means only that customer will see that application server within the Cloud Control Center whole environment. So we've thought long and hard about this. We introduced that earlier this year. It's gone down a storm. That's really popular. And, so if you've got customers who are happy to be on a shared environment, but have a dedicated need for an application server and maybe a VPN that plugs into that as well, that's what that's for. So these are the sort of things that all three of us can individually with you as a partner go through and explain and take you through each scenario in more detail.
Absolutely. Just looking at marketing and sales enablement, some of you who work with us already might know some of these. So we released a campaign in the box earlier this year about how cloud can benefit your customer and how you can reach out to your customers with the future thinking of hyperscaler knowledge. So in that campaign in a box, there's email templates, LinkedIn ads. We've done some design where you can either have Cloud for Partners branding or brand it yourself. But what we're doing as well this year, and it's blown up in the respect of how we visit partners as well. Nick, Alan, and myself cover all different territories, and we're always on planes seeing people in person, and we want to do that with you. We always find that face-to-face is more beneficial, and we actually get further along with meeting customers and closing things quicker. So we are always willing to do that. We sponsor events. We've done a bit of that with SAP, which has gone down really well. We've got case studies of success cases with migrations, estate migrations, as well as partners who have never touched the cloud and come to us and done amazing work. We also have battle cards for your sales team that they can then go in front of a customer, even the customer success teams within your company. having those conversations to say, you've been on premise for X amount of years, you've been using SAP, it's now time to move to the cloud. Here's an opportunity with Cloud for Partners and AWS, and here is how it's going to benefit you. We've also created a cloud readiness questionnaire. Some of you I know on this call are actually using it, which is awesome. Going in front of a customer and filling it out to see their readiness in terms of migrating to the cloud. It's a really good indication to see how the company is currently sitting and whether they are either in the green or the amber or the red. And if they are in the red or the amber, we can take certain steps to be able to help you to have those conversations, or what needs to happen before they move to the cloud. It's a really good resource to have those conversations and ask the right questions. So we would share that with you as well. And yeah, lastly, we want to be an extension of your team. I think that is our ethos at Cloud for Partners. We want to work with you, not just against you or next to you. We want to integrate and be together and help you in the best way possible. Alan, Nick, have I missed any of those?
No, not at all. I think the extension of the team is exactly the feeling we want. It's if we can get your sales team to actually start talking about us as being intrinsically linked, and effectively they're getting the power of 2 SAP partners for the price of 1. That's always a good sales message.
Absolutely. So this is just a question to sit with. And I think we're now getting to the end of our presentation, and we'll move into Q&A and questions. But this is something we asked at Boyum, and I think it's something that we've realized that partners have friction or the difficulty of having some of these conversations with customers. But if your sales team had a fixed per seat price and 0 scoping cycles, how much faster would your deals close? Now, we all know sales cycles vary in different regions. It's also customer dependent. It's whether they've got budgets. It's whether they've got teams to do the actual work. But I think that this is something that would speed it up. It's a package that you can go in and be armed to have these conversations. We want to make it as fast as possible for you as well. The fact that you're not waiting on us for answers or any questions, that you have all the tools in the bag to have the right conversation with the right customers. So if you want to scan the QR code, feel free, or you can visit our website and book a 15-minute call with us. Can be longer. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes, but we can do it in 15 minutes if you want to. But we would love to hear from you. We'd love to have a conversation, see where you're at, see where your customers are at, and see what makes sense in terms of the next steps, because we are growing. And at the end of the day, we want to support as many partners in the ecosystem, because this is a collaborative ecosystem. We only grow if you grow. So this is the way that we work. So I am going to do the conclusion slide and open for any questions. I cannot see the chat. Nick, Alan, do we have any in the chat?
We don't at the moment. So,
don't at the moment, okay.
Does anyone have any questions? And, if this open forum isn't where you want to ask them, you can ping or message any one of us 3, and we're more than happy to have that session individually with you as well and go through it. So Fernando's happy with the presentation. Okay, we've been asked for a quote, so we'll come back to you on that one. What we can do individually with you all as well is that behind the scenes, we've actually developed a brand new quoting tool, which is really, really powerful. And in there is a lot of additional information. So things like the cloud questionnaire, readiness questionnaire that Chelsea mentioned earlier, but there's marketing material, there's things that we can share with you and actually provide to you and to your teams. Now, we're not shy about this. Steal as much from Ascari and what we've designed as much as possible. Rebrand it, make it yours, put it in your own language, make people think you've designed it, steal it. The whole idea is it's giving you collateral to go to market with. And if we can do that, great. But yeah, we'll certainly come back with a quotation for you there for your 20 user system pretty quickly.
Awesome. We'll give it a minute or two and then we can close up. But just want to say thank you everyone for joining. As you know where to find us. Our email address is on screen here. Also, if you want to connect on LinkedIn or come through our website, there's loads of assets there as well. You can request a partner pack. You can chat to us about sales enablement. We're constantly evolving our website as well and optimizing it. You'll see a lot of our data center news, data sovereignty, all of the migration factory of what we've spoken today. If you want a bit more of a deep dive on the products, there's a comparison page there where you can see what's included and what comes with the bundle. But we'd love to have a conversation and see you and come visit you. We're more than happy to do that. Alan's off on a plane very shortly, I know. Nick and I are following suit soon. But yeah, we just want to make it as collaborative and integrated as possible. So I think we should wrap up there then. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thanks everyone.
Really appreciate it. Speak to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.